Welcome to our weekly brief, sixth graders. Today, I would like to accomplish 3 things with you. Number 1, we will practice our Callin Response. Number 2, we will practice our scripture recitation. And number 3, we will continue to learn more about verbals. And verbals are found in your grammar textbook in chapter 9 on page 67. So actually, before I even get started, you guys should or could have your diagramming sentences book, and you can grab your diagramming sentences verbals definition worksheet that I sent your parents. Okay, so let's get started. This is the same call and response we've been working on together. I'm going to call, and at home you're going to respond, okay? Our Lord has written the promise of resurrection. Well done, students. Now, let's practice our scripture memory, which is Genesis 1, verse 24. This is the 6th day of creation. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth, each according to their kinds." And it was so. Genesis 1:24. Next, let's talk about verbals. Yesterday, you guys did a great job collecting your commonplace journals from Anne of Green Gables. And I noticed and I observed several of you either collected sentences or mimicked sentences that actually contained verbals. Okay, you may not know what a verbal is. I'm using the worksheet. I'm going to give you the definition, and then I'm going to share a couple of phrases that I collected from you guys yesterday. So, verbals are words that look like verbs, sometimes take on objects like verbs, but function in the sentence as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. And yesterday I talked about you guys who are students, but God is calling you students to actually act like teachers, and that you're doing some things at home that you normally don't do, and you're learning skills to actually teach yourself. So you're students, but you're acting like teachers. You may even be helping teach your brothers and sisters. So, verbals. They look like verbs, but they're acting like nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. One of you collected a sentence that included tangled vines. Tangled, if I just saw it by itself, I would think your job is an action verb, a past tense action verb. But in that sentence, if you think about, or that little phrase, tangled verbs, tangled is modifying the noun, right? It's working as an adjective, okay? That is a verbal. Somebody also collected a phrase that I pulled out, increasing, haunting woods. So those increasing, haunting, they look like ing verbs, but they're actually working as adjectives too. So you're already collecting and mimicking verbals. You just don't have a name for them. So I'm going to help you name them, and we're going to practice them for the next 2 weeks. So let's continue on with this worksheet. I gave you the definition. There are 3 types of verbals: gerunds, infinitives, and participles. You're going to define them on the worksheet, and I'm going to help you do that. I'm going straight from the book. If you need to look on page 67 if you don't catch this. But let's just do them in turn. Number 1, gerund. A gerund is a word that looks like an ing verb, but it works like a noun and can be used the way a noun is used, as a subject, object, or complement. I want you guys to write a short sentence that showcases one, but let me give you an example first. Reading is my favorite pastime? Okay, I'd love for you to do one on your own, but reading is my favorite pastime. And that sentence, what is reading? What job is it? Okay, it's the subject. It's acting like a noun, but it looks like a verb, right? Okay, the next one, infinitives. An infinitive is the verb form that includes to. So an infinitive can function in a sentence as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb as well. The infinitive can actually be a subject, object, complement, or a modifier. An example, to find love is a blessing. To find love is a blessing. That's my example. I would love for you guys to create your own example. Okay, and the last verbal are participles. A participle is a word that looks like a verb or present participle, and it can also look like a past participle, but it is a word that acts like an adjective. So my short sentence is, I love mashed potatoes. Okay, mashed is my participle. It's a past participle, but it's working like a modifier. What kind of potatoes do I love? I loved mashed potatoes. It's describing, okay? So great job. Now I would like to attempt to diagram one sentence with you, okay? And then we'll wrap it up and I will conclude with my riddle. So stay tuned for the riddle. Okay, my sentence, and this is a true sentence. This is a work of nonfiction, not fiction. My students love reading. Let's diagram it. Step 1, I draw my baseline. Step 2, I draw my predicate line. Last week we did prepositional phrases. You may be thinking, Mrs. Schaefer, we need to find the prepositional phrases. There are no prepositional phrases, but I like the way you're thinking. So let's first of all I'm going to find my predicate, okay? What is the action of this sentence? Love, okay? And I ask who or what loves, and it's students. Students is my subject, okay? Whose students? My students. There's my possessive pronoun. My students love what? Okay, reading. So that action is being transferred on to an object. ing, isn't that a verb? No. In this case, the job of this is to receive the action of love, which is, just a reminder, a verb transitive, right? So reading is my direct object. So this is how I diagram. This is also going to be diagrammed like a little table, but it's a little bit different, so stay with me. And this is pretty fun. Reading is going to go on this little step, okay? So I'm going to put read, and then I'm just going to stick my I and my NG. That's how we're going to diagram our verbal. This particular verbal is a gerund, okay? And this is an example. There are several examples in the book, and I will refer those to you for more practice. But for now, that's something you can work with. And the last thing to conclude our weekly brief is the riddle. Last week, I received within hours of the video the answer to the riddle. And the winner will be the first person who emails me. So use the mind that God gave you and the abilities that God gave you to try to solve this riddle. Do not use Google. Do not ask people in your family. This is an honor code assignment. You must solve this riddle. Okay, here's the riddle. What goes around and around the wood, but never goes into the wood? I will leave you with that riddle. Never stop learning.